And we are live once again with another edition of Deconversion Stories. Today, I'm talking with Jeff Cooper, who says he's not the blue-collar heathen, but he is a blue-collar heathen. So that's, I guess, the sort of principle behind your channel is you talk about this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And basically, you have a sort of a deconversion. So let's kind of take it back to sort of the beginning. For lack of a better word, stages of when you sort of started coming out of what you now consider to be fallacious belief systems.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, before we get into even that, thanks for having me here, man. I mean, this is
my pleasure.
This is really, really cool. This is really cool. But yeah, I guess the beginning would be, very close to, my beginning. And see, I was super, super sick as a kid, and I spent a lot of time in hospital. I had childhood asthma real bad, and we lived in this old farmhouse, and I had a bunch of allergies, and there was like mold and stuff in there that would kick off these respiratory bits.
Right.
And my mother had a cat at the time. The cat's name was Crisis. So that should tell you about, the whole state of the household. And
aptly named.
Turns out I'm allergic. Yeah, right. I'm allergic to cats too. So go figure there. So I spent a lot of time in hospital as a kid, and I learned to read like real early. So, while in hospital, I read a bunch of stuff, and I always read, way above, where I was, supposed to, as far as like grade levels and stuff like that. I remember reading Fritz Leiber in the hospital. Like, it would have been the stories in like one of the magazines, like a FNSF, fantasy and science fiction magazine. So,
sure.
Back in the 70s, this is, when that was. So when I got into, when I like rediscovered it later, I'm reading like the Fawford and Gray Mauser stories. I'm like, oh shit, I already know this. I mean, so also in there, I read some of the Robert E. Howard. That was my introduction to Clark Ashton Smith, and like the Greek and the Roman myths and stuff like that. And fast forward a year or so after, they figured out that, hey, it's mostly allergies that are kicking this kid's respiratory issues off. My mom borrowed a bunch of money from my great grandparents, and it came with the caveat that, hey, you got to take them boys to church, right?
Okay.
Right. So come Sunday mornings, we got, dressed up in that god awful corduroy and, those horrible colors.
I remember that.
Right.
Yeah, oh man.
We got dressed up in those and schlepped off to this United Methodist church. And I remember like the design of the building, it was supposed to look like Noah's Ark. Like it had like this bowed roof and everything in it. And I was the kid that come Easter, the Easter Mass, right? And, the dude, he has all the kids come up to the altar and everything. And, and to preempt anything, I always remember him as a very nice and kind guy. I don't remember him doing anything untoward to anybody, but he had all the kids up around the altar, and he goes through this, Easter sermon bit. And he asks us, I guess he's, talking about the resurrection story probably at that point. And he asks us, are there, do any of you kids like have any questions on this? And I'm looking around the whole time and I'm like, yeah, how did they get that big beam to bend like that?
The relevant questions.
Yeah. I mean, so it struck me that it took me some time to realize that there were actually adults that thought that these stories were true. And that was always interesting to me.
I'm assuming you didn't quite buy into them.
I didn't. I mean, I liked the stories, some of the stories I thought were horrible, but I mean, I liked some of the stories, but I thought, like this, the Jewish myths here, there's no Hydra There's no Gorgon. There's no snow women. There's nothing cool for them to do. There's nothing cool for them to fight. Like I want the heroes to do something. I mean, the Hulk bit, the Samson bit, I mean, that was cool. I like that one. I tried using that as a justification for why I shouldn't get a haircut, because I was always the smallest kid on the block. And I was like, no, if I get my hair cut like it says in the Bible, I'm going to get my ass kicked. I mean, the Achinikovs down the road are going to throw my freaking sneakers up on the power lines again. And, but, that didn't fly. But no, I recognized that they were stories, and, even though, I was made to go to church at the beginning, and I went till I was about 13 or 14 or so. I mean, I was an altar boy for a couple of years, so that was kind of funny. I got to hang out and hear like the adult version of the stories. And when you tell a nerd like me, that these, this is the book, this is where the stories come from, I'm like, oh, okay. So I read it.
Yeah.
And well, that would let me ask better questions in Sunday school.
Yes, of course.
And, I don't know if it was just my church or, if it was like common practice everywhere, but they usually had like, people that were in like the youth ministry or whatever, running the Sunday school classes. I'm talking for like the little kids, we were 7, 8, 9 years old,
Sure.
So, those kids didn't have the answers to the questions that I was asking, and, I knew a bit about science, because again, nerdy kid growing up at the time, the Saturn launches weren't that far removed from the time that I'm talking about. Skylab went up, during my lifetime. So, that was, rockets were cool. I remember having this space race card game. It was like, so I mean, I'm still into the rockets. I mean, I still build them. So I understood, planet formation, and that kind of thing. I had read on this stuff, and what it was saying in the Bible was not, shit ain't like that. So it was very, right. So while I didn't really buy into the stories, where I lived, I considered myself a Christian, but it would have been more like a cultural thing, right? Because
sure.
I grew up in downstate New York. It was just north of New York City, actually, where that measles outbreak originated. Now, Rockland County, that's where I grew up. And at the time, it was all like second and third generation immigrants. I mean, you had a lot of Italians and Irish out in New York City. So like half of it was Catholic and the other half of the county was Jewish. So I knew I wasn't Jewish. So I identified as Christian because I knew I wasn't Jewish. But as far as, the whole Apostles' Creed and all that stuff, no, we're not. that just never really clicked with me. So it's not even that I have so much of a deconversion from Christianity as more like inoculated to indoctrination by virtue of, the good fantasy and science fiction writers. I mean, that's really what saved me from it. I owe more of my morality to the fantasy writers that were active in the 70s and the 80s and than I do to anything in the Bible.
So most of those stories seem more realistic, so to speak, than a lot of the stories in the Bible anyways.
Well, they did. And because, I mean, language and, character development, were a thing, to make a fantasy story that you can get into that seems, real enough for the reader to get into, that's not easy. You still have to, I mean, when you're creating a story like that, you still have to, even if you alter physics, you have to stay true unto yourself. So world building and that kind of thing, that's a lot of work. And that's why that's why it works very, very good for short stories, but it's much more difficult to maintain over like a novel length work or something like that. That's why the fantasy novels that do that kind of thing, the novels that work, when they find a thing that works, they tend to do more than one of them because holy shit, this actually works.
Yeah. I have a quick question to interject before you continue.
Sure.
One of the people watching wants to know what it says on your shirt.
Oh, my battery is low and it's getting dark. It's
That's, hang on. Yeah. Oh, it's the rover.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. There you go, Adriana. There you go. There's the answer.
Yep.
All right. Let's carry on.
No, it's totally fine. So, now I'm kind of, where was I?
Sorry.
I don't know. No, it's hard to. It was pretty much writing that saved me from that, and good writing. I don't read.
Outside of the biblical canon, you mean?
Yeah. So when I look at a Bible story, now, when I look at a Bible story, for me, I'm like, all right, well, it's easier for me to recognize the literary devices that are used, to keep the narrative going, like that Joseph of Arimathea, character, that they just threw in there. All right. Now, come on. I mean, if I was to write a story and do that with the character, a publisher today is going to be like, dude, your plot sucks. I'm not buying this. And they kick it back for a rewrite if you didn't get rejected outright. The only way they even kick it back for a rewrite, in today's publishing world is if they had already paid you for it,
Right. Yeah.
So, that's why I don't find a lot of the apologetics convincing, because I see them working toward plot devices. And that's just kind of, where my brain goes with it. If I can't take it apart on the literary critique, I'll take it apart from from what I understand about, actual science. And it really doesn't stand a chance once you understand those things. So moral of the story being, teach your kids to read early, and,
you'll probably raise some better critical thinkers anyways.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of how that went. I mean, I figured out that I was an atheist. I was probably 18 or 19 or so.
Okay.
That's again, I'm
not pretty good.
We're still in downstate New York, so we're late 80s, early 90s. And we were the generation that was so bored with cocaine, we invented crack. Right?
Yeah.
So, one of my friends, he was, a great bass player, fantastic bass player, but he got himself cleaned up, and cleaned up at the time meant you stopped doing coke and we're still, smoking joints and drinking. So, he stopped putting 8 balls up his nose, and then, started putting, he got all God nuts on me, and he's like, dude, you ever want to talk about like, the Bible and prophecy and stuff like that, man, it would be really cool. We can sit there and talk about, if you have any questions, man, I'll be happy. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'll be happy to ask you some questions. Yeah, sure. We could talk about this stuff. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, about those 6 days, and now this was over the course of the summer. It would have been, I don't remember which summer it was, but it was over the course of the summer. And, and one time in frustration, he's just like, dude, it's like you're some kind of freaking atheist or something. And I was like,
That works.
I'm pretty sure I know what you mean, but let me go look this up. Yeah, I'll get back to you on that. And then I sat there and got home and was reading up on it, and I was like, huh, no shit, there was an actual word for this the whole damn time. Who knew? So
there's my new label right there.
Yeah. So I mean, it was very easy for me to to fall into that. And Clancy, thank you. You were right, buddy. What can I tell you? But a good story. I don't want to make it seem like I'm talking shit about one of my old friends. Even though it kind of sounds like I'm talking shit about one of my old friends. But to the best of my knowledge, he's still clean. So I don't agree with the method that he used to make that work, but he made it work. So great for him. Better than.
What method are you referring to? Did he go through some sort of?
He went through the whole. He went through the whole, spiritual transformation. After not. After not doing coke, and he got involved. He gave himself meaning. It's just that I don't agree that his meaning was. I don't think it was the divine spirit that helped him. I think it was him becoming involved in something that wasn't the speed metal scene of New York in the late 80s or 90s. He got involved with something else, namely, this little church where he was still playing. I mean, he was still, playing acoustic guitar and all that kind of stuff. He just focused his energy on that, and that let him, live a life without his addictions, and maintain some type of control over them. So in his case, it worked.
Sure.
And
whatever way works best, I guess, just to get you out of that is
I mean, and
and
addiction's a hell of a thing. I mean, it sucks, and that unfortunately I see as, and that's where a lot of religion, preys on, are the people that are in that kind of state, and that's how they get them, and I've never quite agreed with that. I have my own bit with, trying to get clean. I mean, I don't drink anymore, because, I can't, coffee, I'm the guy that if I was at Faithless Forum, I'm the guy that would be railed out on caffeine over in the corner, reminding you, no, asshole, you actually did say that. That's kind of my job.
Well, hopefully you can make it to next year.
Actually fell out of your face hole. That's kind of my game.
Well, hopefully you can make next year.
I hope so. It's. I would like to, next year, maybe the year after may be a little more realistic for me, but okay. I do hope to be able to make that.
Well, they are planning on next year doing it over 2 days, because they found doing it on the one day it was exhausting. So they're going to spread it out over 2 days now. So.
Yeah. I wondered if, I wondered about that, when I first, it's a 1 day thing. And to get people to come in, from all over the country, for a convention, no matter really what the size. I mean, that's going to be, to do it over 2 days, is how I think that, most people would want that done. I had a little bit of insight into convention planning from, other things that I was involved in. Mm-hmm. Like going back to the writing, once upon a time, I was a horror writer, and, I was involved with, at least on the outskirts of, planning the World Horror Conventions and stuff like that. Like, I knew the people that were doing it. I wasn't directly involved, but, I knew the guys that were planning, World Horror Seattle in 2001. I was there for that one, and a couple of the other ones, the horror find conventions that were back in we're talking 02, 03, 04, those ones in there. So I mean, I know the guys that were planning and taking part in those. So I mean, I went to the conventions, I participated in them, but it seemed to me that I'm glad to see that Faithless Forum is growing like that. I think that's awesome. I think that's very cool. Mario.
What I learned, yeah, that's my my phone does that every time I get a message. My phone gets a coin. So they said that they had, I think they sold 100 tickets and they sold out fairly quickly. And they had 500 people on the wait list in case somebody had dropped out.
That's what I heard, that the wait list was 500. I wasn't sure how many actual attendees were there, but I heard that the wait list was 500. That's great. That's great. I mean, that gives you, I think putting the wait list on there is probably a smart thing. That can give them like a benchmark by which to judge for, all right, well, maybe we should plan for this many people, that would be interested,
Well, next year they're going to do everything at a hotel, a large enough hotel that has like a conference center where it can handle those kinds of numbers. And of course the tickets are going to be a little bit more than they were this year, but it's still, man, if you can get down there, it's still worth it. It was the best decision I made.
I guess it's going to be in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area then.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's where they're at, right?
Yeah.
I think that'd probably be a good town for a convention. I mean, you got a major airport there. It's a hub, right? It's a hub airport. Pretty sure.
It's actually cool. That's me how much the tickets are. I paid 50 something, I think, for the VIP tickets this year, but they're going to be at least double that next year. So you're going to probably look about 100, 150 for a ticket. So
but then in
it's
the grand scheme of things,
still worth it.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, if you to have that in a convention type center, where they have the like everything centralized, sure. I've paid that for conventions before.
I paid more. For stuff.
Like I would love to be able to go. I think that would be awesome.
Well, I'll be returning every year, I think, for the foreseeable future anyways. So
all right,
I've made so many friends down there, and anyone who comes down there will totally have that same thing. You'll be making friends because I can't explain the feeling there. It's just nothing but like a camaraderie, and you can feel the love amongst all the people that have this common goal on YouTube to get these messages out there, and we're supportive of each other. When I had Genetically Modified Skeptic and Holy Kool-Aid take me inside and say they want to see my channel soar and improve, that I can't tell you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, that is really, really cool, and it sounds very much like the very much like the scene, like the horror writing scene, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you had a bunch of influx of new writers at the time. That's when Tim Levin came out. He just had his one of his novels was made into a Netflix movie. It's on now, Silence. Brian Keene was coming up at that time. Mike Oliveri. Who else was coming? Oliveri? Yeah, he won the Bram Stoker a few years ago.
That's why I heard it.
Keene. Well, shit, he lives right across the river from me. I mean, me and Brian are buds. His big thing was The Rising. He's got the horror show podcast he does now with Dave Thomas. So I mean, that's when we were all coming up, and you had like the guys like Richard Lehman was still around, Jack Ketchum was still around, and when you have somebody like Richard Lehman coming up to you saying, hey, I really dug that story you had in this little pissant magazine that has a circulation of about 75. You're like, oh my God, that's awesome. Like you just go into like total fanboy mode, you know, or, you know, where, shit, Brian Hodge knows who the fuck I am. You know,
I know.
you know, so
the
that
same
was,
way too.
so, I mean, I can, you know, while I don't have that on YouTube, I can definitely, you know, relate to what you're saying there because, you know, I've been in similar situations back in the day. Yeah. So
you just got to get yourself out there a little more with the other larger YouTubers so they can see what you do. And
yeah.
if they like what they see, they'll definitely get behind you.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. That is awesome. And you know, I'm very glad to see that. You know, my channel, I got a YouTube channel.
Yes, you do. And by the way, guys, there's a link to it in the description below.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I just started doing that like February. I uploaded my first video, and that's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but really my neuroses just wouldn't let me. And now I'm kind of pissed that I haven't like earlier because I mean, I've had the idea for a long freaking time. I just didn't, you know.
So how did you overcome that?
I got super, super, super pissed off at the Pope and said, fuck it.
I got to do this.
I mean, that's really it. And the thing is, the ironic thing is that there's been so much that has happened, you know, that, you know, man, I should have, you know, I mean, you could sit here and follow the shouldas, you know, at any, you know, on down the line, you know, I should have at this point, oh, remember when that, you know, that Pope Ratzinger Nazi fuck said this, you know, I mean, I could have gone, you know, so many other times. I guess it was just, you know, I don't know. I don't know what made me, you know, say, nope, you know, this is the imperative. It must be done now and go and do it.
Well, I'm glad you did, man, because I've enjoyed the content so far. So,
well, cool. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been, you know, it's been fun, you know, and I've been trying to do like about a video a week.
That's good.
And kind of
right now,
kind of feeling it out.
Yeah.
Kind of feeling it out, you know, some response videos, some, you know, the world according to Coop videos.
Which are the ones I actually like best, to be honest.
Yeah. All right, cool. I'm actually working on another, like those ones tend to be a little more scripted because what I'll do is I learned how to type when I was 7, so I tend to think better on the keyboard. Like when I can write it out and see what I think, that, you know, that's where I go better. So those ones tend to be a little more scripted. The response videos, I'm just like, nah, you're done. You're done. You know, you're just saying some goofy shit now. You know, where you need corrected right now. But the other ones tend to be, I honestly just kind of wing it.
Right. That's all you can do. I mean, you just got to sit back and kind of laugh at what these guys have to say sometimes, right?
Oh yeah, because some of it's you know, absolutely ridiculous. Like, you know, like how do they find that convincing? You know, like, you know, where there's some of the stuff that falls out of their face holes. I'm like, dude, can I buy some pot off of you? Because wow. Like you've got to be feeling pretty damn good for that to sound like a good idea.
I don't know if I want to smoke that shit. I could probably come up with some better stuff. So
well, yeah, but damn, man. The mental gymnastics that one has to do to be able to follow that is, you know, it's mind blowing. Like I don't get it. I don't get it. I've never really got it, but the more I look into them, the more I'm like, I make this face a lot, you know, like what? Yeah. So, yeah, that's that's about what I've been doing with that, and you know, I've been enjoying it. You know, it's been interesting. You know, I've got like, I think I just broke 80 subscribers now. I think it was 80 subscribers last night, and you know, I started with 2. You know, I didn't go, really full push on anything. Just kind of throw them out there and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you always start slow, man. Every channel I've
Yeah.
ever started starts slow, but once you get up about 500 or so, and I'm reaching that point now. So.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. You've since Faithless Forum, you had got close to 100 or so, right?
I think I got since the forum, I've got over 140, I think. So that's
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, because I was saying not too long ago, I remember you having, high 200s, low 300s, and it was like 460 something.
Yeah,
last I saw.
Yeah,
so that's awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Seeing when I always get notified when new subscribers come on, and then I see something. Rachel Oates has subscribed to you. Holy Kool-Aid has subscribed to you, and it's just like, wow.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, it's like, oh shit. Yeah. Yeah. No, totally cool. Totally cool.
I'm not bragging, Sassy. I'm just as shocked as anyone else about this. So, if you want this sort of thing to happen, you got to get yourself to an event like that where you can meet all the other creators and become friends.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. I think that would be awesome, and I would really, really like to do that. The most I've been doing is, just interacting with other videos. If I like a video, it doesn't cost anything to hit the thumbs up button, and leave a 20-word response. Hey, really dug this. That was funny. Whatever. Something like that. I mean, and that, that I think that's like leaving a review on Amazon. It doesn't cost you nothing to say, hey, you know what? Out of 5 stars, I'll give this a solid 4.5. I dug the, particularly the second half of the book. I thought was really awesome.
Yeah.
And then you get other channels like, something about a pizza where, you just want to. Forget it. I didn't even mention that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be good.
Can you do reviews for pizza? I don't know if you can.
Can I do reviews from pizza?
No, I thought. Did you say something about pizza?
I could do reviews for pizza. Yeah, I'm uniquely qualified to do reviews from pizza. I'm from New York, for fuck's sake.
Well, I worked in one of the most popular pizza joints here in Vancouver for many years, so I guess I'm sort of qualified as well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Bella Pizza.
Della Pizza. I don't remember Della Pizza. I have gotten pizza in Vancouver. I don't remember where. I've slept since then. We're going. That was a while ago.
When were you in Vancouver?
I would have last been in Vancouver in early 2002.
Okay, so a little while back.
About March of April of 2002, I think. Because I lived in Seattle and I dated a girl that lived there. So like one weekend she'd come down and see me. We'd hang out in Seattle. The other weekend I'd go up there and hang out in Vancouver.
Awesome. Yeah, I love both Seattle and Vancouver. They're probably
it was great towns. Great towns.
Yeah, probably 2 of my favorite cities. And I got to tell you, Austin is now one of my favorite cities because that's such a great place.
Yeah.
I would move there.
Yeah, Austin sounds like a lot of fun, like a whole lot of fun.
It is.
Yeah. Austin's always had that great music scene connection too, where I could,
I remember watching it as a teenager and young adult, watching Austin City Limits and seeing all the cool musical acts that came out from or got recognized on that show, right? So such a great show.
Right. I mean, Austin music. I mean, the first thing I think of is Toadies. That's the first thing that pops into my mind from those guys. But yeah, it would be cool. I'd like to. I've been through Austin, but I haven't, spent real significant amount of time there.
I highly recommend it. Hell, just for the Texas barbecue alone.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you could always get me with barbecue. I'm a medic right now that's like a food group to us.
It's funny. I'm in a group chat with Matt Dillahunty, and he was just ranting about how he was attacked by extremist vegans for his meat eating. And he's just like, I don't know how to handle these fucking people. Like, what do you say to these people, right? Like, listen.
I don't know what to say to those people because I only see them on YouTube.
Mm.
Like, I guess the circles that I travel in, I don't think there's anybody that is vegan that works in emergency services at all.
Hmm.
At least I've never met one of which I'm aware.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I wasn't joking. No, barbecue is pretty much a food group. Like, like
I'm with you.
that's like what we do. Like barbecue and ice cream. Like you run a bad call. After that, it's just like, oh fuck me, I need a pulled pork sandwich. I mean,
Sorry, Pine Snake. The only time I really ever do that is when it's relevant to what we're talking about. You say, "Oh, I'm name dropping." Well, I happen to be in a group that he's in, and he mentioned that, and I thought it was relevant to what we were talking about. So quit picking on me, Pine Snake.
Oh, Pine Snake.
Yeah. So I can start calling him Dick Snake in a minute. So. Sorry, Pine Snake. Love you. Love you, buddy. I have great friends here. I mean, I'm they're all afraid that if I become some sort of big time YouTuber, that I'm going to leave them in the dust, and that's just not going to happen. I don't do that.
I don't know. I mean, that.
Why would I do that? These are the people that helped me get where I am today. Why would I ignore them?
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? Like change the area code in your YouTube name?
Right.
Like Neil, the 212 atheist after he moves to Manhattan. What the fuck? No, come on.
No, I'm not going anywhere. This is my own. All my family's here except for one or two.
Yeah. Yeah, my family's not here. That's pretty much why I am.
Oh, wait a minute. Go into that a little bit. How come? Are you just not a cohesive family unit or what?
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah,
something you want.
No, yeah, I'll go into that. That's.
Was it to do with your atheism at all, or?
No, it really doesn't. I mean, other than that, it was my father's grandparents that lent mom the money to,
right.
That came with the caveat of you got to take them boys to church. No, my mother's still in New York, and both my brother and I we got the fuck out of there like just as quick as we could. I was gone by. I think I turned 21 in Florida, and my brother left, and he's in California, and we hardly ever go back home. We hardly ever go back there. And
do you keep in touch
part of it's family, part of it's it wasn't. I'll put it like this: the home life was not good. That cat was named appropriately.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same old frickin' story. The old man's a violent drunk, blah, blah, blah. There's drugs, there's guns, there's this, there's that, there's the other frickin' thing, there's the arrests, there's the, just get me the fuck out of here.
Right.
And, like how my buddy Mike, how he, went and, stopped doing drugs and found God, I stopped doing drugs and was like, oh shit, if I stay here, there's no fucking way I'm staying clean. And that was it. I just bolted. Right. I bolted. I left New York. I hitchhiked to Newark Airport, right, in February. And I got there, and it's February in Newark, New Jersey. So I'm like freezing my ass off, right? And I walk in, and I just had like a bad month. Like within 3 weeks, my girlfriend dumped me because she was banging some guy on the other side of the river. My car blew up. I blew a head gasket on the car. So I was just like, all right, so I'm just going to sell the car just as is. All right. Take what little money I got. And fuck it. I'm going on vacation. Right. So I hitchhiked to the airport and walked up to the counter. And this is back when you could still walk up to the counter with cash and get a ticket to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Walked up to the counter. I'm like, get me on the first plane out of here. They're like, all right, but you're going to have to run. I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'm like, where's it going? They're like, Denver, Colorado. I'm like, oh, hell no. It's February. I'm not going to Colorado. Get me on the first place out of here, going someplace warm. And they're like, all right, well, I mean, you'll have to walk fast, but I got one going to RSW. I'm like, where's that? She goes, Fort Myers, Florida. I'm like, I never heard of it, but Florida, good enough for me. Get me on that plane. So I moved to Florida with carry-on luggage, right? I just had like my leather jacket, carry-on luggage. I remember I only had I didn't even have any of my CDs with me. I had one tape, cassette tape in my pocket. I had Biohazard's first album, and that was the only thing I had to listen to for the first 3 weeks till I could get in touch with my brother and start having to mail my stuff down. So yeah, I showed up at the airport and I walked out to a payphone.
Decent album, anyways.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic album. I had all of their demos. Their demos were like circulating around when I was in high school. So I mean, their first album was, it was like, oh, great, So I get off the plane and I get to the airport, and they have these things. I'm going to have to explain this for the kids, because they used to have these things that you could put a quarter in and then you could make a phone call, right? There were these things called payphones back in
I remember those.
Yeah, right? So I called up my buddy who was in the same area that I was at. I was like, hey, I'm in Florida right now. He's like, where are you at? I was like, I'm at Fort Myers Airport. Where is that in relation to you? He's like, oh, it's the next town over. I'll be picking you up. All right, so I went and hung out on his couch. The idea was to hang out there until the money was gone, and then go back home. Yeah. So 8 years later, I left Florida for Seattle, and there you go. I mean, I never made it back. So no, I mean, staying out of New York was pivotal to my sanity. There was no way that I would have been able to do anything, if I moved back home, because it was all, because it's all the same faces. When I get phone calls home from home now, and like if I'll get a Facebook message from somebody that is, somebody I grew up with, or went to school with, the first thing I think of is, all right, who's dead, who's in jail, who overdosed, like what happened this time. Like that's the first thing I think. And
so you think they're just updating you on news of people that you left behind there?
Yeah, I mean, and that's generally what it is. It's just like, what kind of bullshit happened now, and I don't want to go back home for the funeral. So I don't, I just don't. I just don't.
I'm not a big fan of funerals as it is, but I'll go to the ones that were close family members for sure. But
oh yeah, no, those ones. Well, those ones I'll go to. I didn't go to my father's funeral because, I had better things to do. I had to go to work, and
well, what you do is important too. So.
Well, yeah, it was a convenient excuse, to our relationship was never exactly good. I'll put it like that. Yeah, it was never exactly good. But to go back now, like I've been to visit, when I couldn't get out of it, and I'm just like, oh geez. Just to even be around there anymore. There's so many ghosts per square foot, and it was like, I just can't deal with it. I just can't deal with it. And this was like a total tangent, and this was not his fault. This was all my fault. Which has absolutely nothing to do with atheism, except for in the most broad sense, where, when I did leave, and went to Florida and started that whole like, all right, this is kind of who I'm at. The atheism thing to me was relatively new. So, I mean, at least at least definitionally, you know what I mean? Like I hadn't really thought about it. Like I was just like, I don't believe that bullshit, but I mean, I did believe some weird shit, I believed, yeah, I mean, I believed some weird shit. I believed in like, I believed in ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
I believed in, like tarot and shit like that.
I still have a deck.
Yeah. And it was through each of those things, like reading up on it and studying on it and understanding, how one crafts a story and some of the science, those are the two things that serve to break me out of all of that,
Yep.
as far as ghosts and stuff like that. Okay, well, what would a ghost be? It would be some type of presence, some type of intelligence surviving after death. Well, how would that work without the brain? What mechanisms could we use that would say that this could be a thing? Yeah.
Like, what's keeping the energy from just dissipating?
Yeah. How is it retaining
energy? And I say that with quotations.
Yeah. No, I got you. I mean, and there's some parts of that you can suspend your disbelief,
and we did in our youth because we didn't understand enough, right?
Well, I mean, you can suspend your disbelief for a story, if the story is good enough and warrants that suspension of disbelief, I mean, not to pick on Star Wars, but all right.
Come on, midichlorian.
Yeah. Well, not even getting into that, all right? Not even getting into the force mitochondria or whatever the fuck they are. But like the whole the whole like lasers, like the lightsaber. Come on. Like what's retaining that? Seriously.
Hey, they're working on that, man. I don't know how they're gonna contain it into that. I think they need some sort of electromagnetic bar inside that's gonna hold it to that position.
Yeah, which is gonna require a metric fuck ton of energy to right?
So they're all gonna have little tiny black holes in it or something.
Yeah, be like, well, what you need to do to make that work clearly is to take like the Ghostbusters, proton packs, and run that through a flux capacitor, and then at 1.21 gigawatts, and then maybe, just maybe, you'll have enough of a electromagnetic field to hold that in place.
Yeah, to hold that light in there. Yeah, it'll be like the first lightsabers will be like our first cell phones. They'll have like a fucking suitcase of shit you got to lug around.
Yeah, you pretty much got to like strap a DeLorean to your fucking back to make that thing work.
Yeah. Carry around your own Mr. Fusion.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, hey, who knows, man? Hey, if they come out with a lightsaber, at least one that's, just for show, that's cool and makes the sounds, and I think they do have them already. But I'd buy one just to get out there and act
they have, they have like the, like
the light up ones.
Yeah, like the light up ones. Yeah, I mean they've had those since,
Oh shit! I remember seeing the commercial or the show of the guy who invented that, where he put the tube on the end of a flashlight, and wrapped it in cellophane for his kid, so his kid could have one. And next thing you know, every kid in the neighborhood wanted one. So he figured, "Fuck, I got a marketable idea going here."
Yeah.
And he went from there.
I remember when I was a kid, they had blow up lightsabers. They were like inflatable. That it was essentially like a flashlight, but it had like it was like you blew it up like you would like a, like the seahorse for the frickin' backyard pool or something like that. Like it was an inflatable thing, and me and my brother, whacked each other with those things, and of course, they broke in like 10 minutes.
Well, I like the you remember the blow up pillowy things you could put your fists into? And
you put your fists into and just beat the shit out of it. Oh yeah.
A couple of emergency room trips there.
Yep.
Oh, Badger. Badger says, in Star Wars books, the earliest lightsabers had backpack batteries and a cable. There you go.
Huh.
Yeah,
See?
I'm
They
smart.
just, yeah,
Well,
see, there you go. They just took like the, like a Ghostbusters power pack, right? I mean, that's pretty much sounds like what he's describing there,
yeah, give or take, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, I usually do an after party.
Yeah.
After these conversations, and I think we've covered your deconversion fairly well and sidetracked into some cool shit.
Yeah, we got all right. Yeah, sorry, my fault.
Oh no, I love that. I think it's great because it just, as much as I like these deconversion stories to be told because I think they're important, and they could help people. The fun part also helps to make people feel a little bit more at ease, I think, and I've been told that that's the case.
Yeah, no, probably because. Like you were saying, meeting like people on YouTube, like before you sent me the link, to come in here, I must have peed like 3 times in 15 minutes. I mean, it was like
all that coffee. It's a
no, the hell with the coffee. It was just like the nervousness and the the dopamine.
Yeah,
that's what dopamine does. How I start to try to calm myself down for that is figuring how many micrograms per kilogram is actually being made, and then okay, and so this is how much dopamine my kidneys are making right now. So I figured it out to be about 142 micrograms a minute.
There you go. All right. Well, I guess we can just jump right into an after party.
Sure.
And anyone that would like to be involved, I will put a link in the Usual Suspects group. If you are not in my Usual Suspects group and would like to join, just send me a message on Twitter because that's usually where I do this. And dude, thanks so much for coming on with me today.
No, thank you, Neil. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun. And I'm sorry, anybody in the chat, I wasn't looking at the chat. I wasn't even trying to do both things at once.
Well, I keep my eye on it, and there was a few questions that got asked. But any more questions, I'm sure they'll pop them at you in the after party.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds great.
Now, the way it works.
Well, thank you so much. It really has been awesome to be here. So
yeah,
thank you.
Been a lot of fun,
it's been very, very cool. And I look
any
forward
conversation that ends up talking about Star Wars, I'm game. It's all good.
Yeah.
And I will send you a new link for the Hangout in a few minutes. I'm just going to go have a cigarette and crack another brew, and we'll get back into this. And like I said, guys, any of you that want to join, just let me know, or it'll be in the group.
All right.
All right. And remember, guys, what I always... sorry, say that again?
No, I was just saying thank you. No, it's awesome.
My pleasure, man. It's been awesome. And remember, guys, what I always say at the end of these, as the great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.